Hi good people, Titus here for a quick Unreal Engine tutorial, and in this video I'll show you how to quickly set up a 2D Axis game prototype. This setup will allow you to work with both 3D and 2D assets in a locked two-dimensional plane, and it's easier to set up than you might realize. Let's not waste any time and jump right into it. Alright, so we have the basic third person setup here, so if we hit play, see my character can move around in 3D space. Let's go ahead and begin setting it up to lock it down to 2D though. So to do this, we're going to go into the third person folder, click on blueprints, and let's open up our BP third person character class. I'm going to go ahead and dock this in my window here. If you turn your attention to the component section, there is a character movement script here. If you click on that, under the details panel on the right, you'll have all the settings for that script. And if you scroll down to the bottom, there is a planar movement section. You can actually just simply check this constrain to plane box, and then you can constrain a normal in either the X, Y, or Z. When you set the values to 0, it means your character can move in those, there's basically that axis. If you set it to 1, it'll constrain it so it can't move in that axis. So as an example, say I pick the Y axis, set that to 1 and compile. Now when I play my game, I can move this way, I can jump, but I can't move that way or that way, and that's because that's the Y axis. If we go to the map and we look at our player start, you'll notice in the left hand or the bottom left hand corner, the green colored arrow is the Y axis, which is what I constrained. Blue is the Z and the red is the X, and that's the same thing with the gizmos, so that's how you can tell it apart. But let's take this a step further. I'm going to go ahead and move this over here like so, and then I'm going to maybe scale that back, hold Alt, and maybe drag a duplicate there. And then maybe I will bring these boxes back. Okay, so now if I play, I can run down this line, I can't run this way, and we got a nice little setup. So let's expand a bit on it. We'll go back to the third person character, and if we select the camera boom on the left hand side, we can begin making some adjustments to the camera's position, because we probably don't want it to follow the character behind it since we're trying to make a two-dimensional game. If I scroll near the top, there's two settings I'll probably want to change. The pawn control rotation, I don't really want to have that enabled anymore. And then the camera boom, I want it to be 90 degrees, kind of facing the character like that, or maybe on the other side if it was, depending on the position you're doing. And then the rotation, I don't really want it to be relative. I want it to be a world rotation, because I'm kind of setting up the game to be basically specific to the world's scale and stuff. So that's probably a better setting there. If we compile and save that, we can then play the game, and we'll notice I actually have more of a kind of like a 2D setup that I was going for. Now what's weird is the movement is very odd. So when I go left, or when I'm trying to do basically the A button to go left, it's trying to go down. And when I press W, it's going left. So it's a very weird movement setup we have. So to fix that, we're actually gonna have to mess with the character's controller. So we can come into the event graph, and they actually have the movement input set up with this node here, and it's using the character's control rotation to set a right vector and a forward vector. So a better setup for us is basically using the camera's position, because the camera is actually set up pretty nice for this. So we can use basically the orientation of the camera to dictate the movement direction of our character. So we'll just go ahead and delete these nodes, although we're going to be kind of bringing them back, and I'll just drag out the follow camera to get a reference to it, and then you can just drag off and get world oops, rotation. And then off this pin, you can get the right vector. And then from that right vector, you can actually just plug that into the world direction. And this will be for the X value. Now for the Y value, we're going to be doing almost the same thing. So we'll drag out the camera, and then we'll get a reference to world rotation. But this time we're going to drag off and get the up vector. And then we'll plug that into the world direction. And that should fix the weird turning. I can only really describe it, you can't really see it. So you'd have to maybe, if you're following along, you'll probably kind of see it there. But now the character kind of moves more like I expect, where the W and the S keys do not do anything, they don't go up or down. But the W and the D keys will turn the character around and move them left and right. So that's kind of like more the setup that I was trying to get. That's pretty good there, but it's still a little bit weird with the camera. So the camera's kind of moving kind of jaggedly. So what you can do for that is you can actually come back into the camera boom, and there is a collision test under the camera collision settings where it says do collision test. You can uncheck that, compile and save, and now you'll notice your camera won't bounce forward and back, but we got to set an appropriate distance from the player, because right now it's a little bit too close. So you can do that with the target arm length. Like if I did something like maybe 700 or 800 or even 1,000, like one of those, basically just double the distance. It's a little bit further back, and then you get a little bit more of this type of setup, which is a lot better. So maybe that's what you're going for your 2D game. If you wanted a little bit more of a cinematic experience, there is a setting in the camera boom for camera lag. Let me see if I can find it here. Yep, there's a lag section. So you can just simply enable camera lag. And then if I did like a lag speed of like 1, compile and save, you'll notice the character can outrun the camera. And then it kind of tracks a little bit slow, kind of going forward and back and stuff. And depending on your movement speed, the character can kind of get away from the camera pretty far. So if you ever need to lock it in place where it can only be a set distance, there is a camera lag max distance. You can make that something like 500 or 400, or even smaller. And then that'll be how far the camera can get away before it'll speed up and catch up to the character. And then just with, like a few tweaks like this, you get kind of more of a cinematic, I guess, feel or vibe to your prototype. But all right, people, just like that, we have our 2D locked axis all set up and ready to go. From here, you can import your 2D sprite sheets. You can convert them into flipbooks, and then you can call them from the event graph to actually move the sprite around in this locked 3D space. Or if you preferred, you could just stick to 3D assets and just move them in a 2D plane, if that's more of the style you're going for. But I hope you found informative value in this topic. As always, thanks for watching, consider subscribing, and we'll see you on the next one.